Well, welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to one in my Cornwall series. I'm in Cornwall for a couple of days, probably do a couple of videos from Cornwall, a couple from neighbouring Devon, which is actually just over there. That's Dartmoor over there, although we're most definitely in Cornwall here at the moment. I'm on the edge, I'm just walking up to the top of Kit Hill, which was given to the people of Cornwall on the birth of William and Harry by the then Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, now of course the King Charles, and it's present day Prince William that owns this site here or maintains it. It's part of the Duchy of Cornwall lands, here in Cornwall in the Duchy of course, but this site here was once covered in tin mines. Also has a little bit of an extra secret, not just mining, which we'll have a look at as well. Quarrying took place here, very precious stone, and just down there is Hinxton Down, where a battle was fought here in Cornwall. We're near the town of Callington in East Cornwall, kind of to the south of Launceston, which was once the ancient capital here of Cornwall here in Cornwall. But here, from the top of this hill, we should be able to get some magnificent views. Well, we've certainly got some magnificent views already. That's looking down towards the village of Stokes Climsland and the Duchy College. Let's head on up to the top of there. Now this along here, this deep groove in the landscape, is once a tramway which served one of the many quarries which litter the site here of Kit Hill. Now previously on my railway series here in Cornwall, we've covered Calstock down there, which is on the Gunners Lake branch, and the line to Gunners Lake continued on, as well as diverging off of Beer Alston to become part of, well, Southern Railway, London South Western Railway, Junction Railway, doing the loop around, back round to Oakhampton, around the northern part of Dartmoor. The line goes on to Gunners Lake, but it used to continue on further, and it used to go on right down on the bottom of the hillside there to serve the town of Callington, although the station was a little bit further away at a little village called Kelly Bray, just on the main road heading down from Launceston these days. Unfortunately no trace of it remains. Part of the track bed is still in existence, but virtually all of it is, well, there's no right of access across it unfortunately, so I did think about doing that as a potential exploration, but it's not one we can do in our Lost Railway series. But we can certainly have an explore at the top of the hill here and tell you about a couple of extra secrets of it. So it's a granite tour, if you like, almost like an extension of Dartmoor up there, when you've got the molten rock which was forced up from the Earth's core, and the crust had forced it through, and as the process of that granite was cooling, it formed the minerals, and of course it was the extraction of those minerals in the lodes that are here underneath where I'm walking at the moment that brought the miners here. Now hereabouts is some of the shafts belonging to North Engine shaft and North Engine site. I'm not sure there's any remains of it as such, but you can see it's fenced off, so there's lots of uncapped shafts in that area there. Now sadly the main chimney stack here, related to Kit Hill's mining past, today is littered with lots of aerials and communications satellite dishes, mobile phone masts, that sort of thing. I believe it's actually owned by Cornwall Council, so they get the rent incomes from that, and there's a little transmitter hall at the base of it for those connections. But personally I'd love to see it without those all that paraphernalia around the top of it. And what we're looking at here looks almost kind of prehistoric, some kind of ancient burial chamber, except it isn't. This is related to the mining industry as well, and I think it's related to the production of arsenic. It's an old arsenic smelter. In fact, we saw one, didn't we, in a previous video when we're looking on the Tamar Valley, when I walked there with my daughter from Beer Alston Station. And yeah, so this is related to that. It almost looks like a leat for carrying water, but of course it ends in that little tump there. So that, I would imagine, where it was smelted, there's a little opening on the other side of it, but I can't get to it because it's fenced off. Now the Cornish for Kit Hill is Briscowl. That's probably not the right pronunciation. I told you I'm terrible with both Celtic and Welsh pronunciations, but yeah, that's the kind of idea. It has a bit of a claim to fame. It's one of what is known as a Marilyn. Now, nothing to do with Marilyn Monroe, and Cornwall has 5 of these, so what on earth is a Marilyn? Well, it's a hill that's above 150 metres. There are many of them across the entirety of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. I'm not quite sure how they came to using that descriptor of 150 metres. Is that 462 or 492 feet? I'm not sure. It's one of the two. I'll put it in below, but yeah, it's 150 metres. So the other ones, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I know that one of them is Brown Willie. There's one at Carmanellis, which is near the town of Redruth in the western part of Cornwall, which is near the famous 4 lanes TV radio transmitter there. And Hengerston Hill, I think, is another one as well. I can't remember what the other couple are, but yeah, so there's 5 of them in Cornwall, and I think sometimes it's kind of a thing, isn't it, to climb all of them, to walk up all of them. But the thing is with this one, you can drive up. You don't even need to walk up from, say, Kelly Bray down there or Callington, because you can virtually drive up all the way to the summit. What I'm just walking to, though, is one of the biggest mine shafts here, so I'm just going to show you that. It is all fenced off, well, thankfully, because I don't want to walk down it. There's one here, there's a smaller one here, and I think these are all linked to the northern part of the shaft here. And also some of the little tips and dumps, sometimes they're related to mining, sometimes they're related to earlier quarrying as well. So there's like a smaller open one there. I certainly don't want to walk in there. And we have this huge one here. And at one time they've obviously banked it up with a bit of Cornish hedging, if you can see that there. So it's got a wooden stake posts around it and bit of wire there, metal wire, and then you can see it's got an inner ring of a Cornish wall, which is like rough hewn stone, well, granite blocks, and then they get it to grow with the grass and the ferns and the mosses and the heathers on top to make it look more attractive. But that's right in there, and I'm certainly not going in there. Well, let's see if we can see any more of this mine shaft over here. And I say they're all interlinked on the site here. There, so it's just kind of over there. The other side of here you've got Bodmin Moor, and of course that was a huge area for Cornish tin and copper production, as well as other precious metals, a bit of silver and other things as well. But yeah, so we're just walking around this site here, and I say I'm glad that they're fenced off so we know exactly where the shafts are, which yeah, it'll be a little bit dangerous if they weren't, wouldn't it? Sorry for the slightly shaky footage then. I was trying to get the camera to go over the barbed wire fence as much as I can with the selfie stick, so just holding it with one arm. But yeah, that's very deep indeed. Obviously you can't see the bottom because of the ferns and bracken growth down there. Looks like it has grown out the sides and then started to fall in, so it's like partially covered with foliage. But yeah, rest assured that's very, very deep indeed down there. On the tips you can see in front of me, well, that's basically what would have been dug out of the ground to create that shaft and to enable the Cornish miners to go deep underground to get the earth's precious metals out. Back in the 800s you had something called the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, and in 835 AD they reported a battle here, actually on the eastern side of Kithill, Hingston down, and that was between King Egbert, who was king of the West Saxons, and he defeated a army made up of, well, it sounded like a bit of an assortment of both Vikings and Cornish. So they were both defeated here in Cornwall. Yeah, so that's a bit of a strange one, isn't it, really? But yes, those Saxons won. Later on, towards the Civil War, there was a redoubt built here. I've forgotten the gentleman's name, but he built here, which is actually a folly fort. I haven't actually seen it yet. We come across it, or remains of it. So it looks like a Saxon castle, but it's just a redoubt. It's not an actual building itself. I would imagine that was built in the English Civil War to give a bit of a defensive position, but I'm not aware of any battles that took place here during the Second English Civil War here at Kithill in Cornwall. Now the central mine here at Kithill was worked between 1826 and 1864, so not a huge lifespan for all these shafts that are dotted around it. And the main chimney there was also a windmill here at one time, and that would have been used to pump the water out of the levels to keep it dry so the miners could work in it. Obviously that's kind of pre-photography area. I don't know if there's any drawings of it though. But yeah, obviously being on such a high exposed site, getting all the full force of the winds hereabouts in the eastern part of the county of Cornwall, it would have been ideal for powering some kind of pump to get the water out. Conventionally, of course, in other areas, they would have used engines, a lot of them built by Bolton of Watt, powered by coal. So we have another mine engine stack down there, which is South Kithill Mine, which was worked from 1856 to 1884. And you can see evidence there of some fencing around there where the shafts would have been. But there was a much, much bigger project here, and its legacy and usefulness carried on into the middle of the 20th century. It's a rather intriguing tale indeed. Oh, just by the way, so if I can show you that over there, you can actually see Plymouth over there. I can certainly make out from here, you probably won't see it on your screens at home, but I can see the 3 tower blocks of flats at Devonport there, and the River Tamar going down. I can't quite make out the bridges though from this angle, but you can certainly see deepness of the Tamar and the lower part of the Tamar Valley from here. Now some of the mines were winding down here towards the middle and the latter part of the 19th century. There was also some investment going on, and a company called the Excelsior Tunnel Limited were going to build a huge tunnel some 2.5 miles long from that end of Kithill right to the other, connecting up lots of the mines that had been previously worked, but also some new lodes as well, to extract lots of minerals which they knew to be underneath where I'm currently walking. Work started, but it turned out to be a very, very expensive project, and it ground to a halt before the end of the 19th century, but to be revived again in the 1930s. But again, only about 1,800 yards of it was ever built. But that's not the end of the story. That tunnel was called the Excelsior Tunnel here at Kithill. It had a much more interesting and, well, kind of darker side linked to warfare, as I'll explain. Now, you may have heard of the Manhattan Project during the Second World War in terms of atomic warfare and lots of research into that. Well, that continued. Obviously, it kind of closed off the Second World War with the two terrible bombs at Nagasaki and Hiroshima in Japan. So the world was already fully aware of what atomic warfare could do, the devastation that it could cause. But there was another side to atomic, and this is where it kind of crossed over between atomic energy and using it for warfare. But they wanted to do some tests. To that end, in 1959, the Atomic Energy Authority, as it was then, decided to use the tunnel that had been dug previously in the 19th century, Excelsior Tunnel, which is right underneath where I'm walking now, for some bomb tests. So they sealed off the entire area from the public. Bearing in that mind, it wasn't open access land because it belonged to the Crown after the mining had been completed. And the tests were actually one of three phases, and phase A, the smaller explosions, were going to be taken place underneath here at Kit Hill, some 100 feet below the ground. And so in 1959, a series of explosions, atomic explosions, happened right here inside Excelsior Tunnel. They'd actually dug out 6-foot cavities in those tunnels to explode the weaponry. If I can get some more details, I'll link to it in the description of this here. But that wasn't the end of the story. After they'd done those tests here at Kit Hill in Cornwall, they carried on in America, in Louisiana in America. That was phase 2, phase B. And later on there was another phase which brought the tests back to the United Kingdom. I think it was a place called Greenside Mine in Cumbria in the northwest of England. And they did some more tests there. So lots of things happening there. You'd never think that connection between mining here in Cornwall and atomic explosions underground here. Obviously they have been tested in terms of radioactivity since then, and obviously it's safer to do these things underground than obviously above ground. But incredible to see that. I don't think it is, well, it's certainly not easy, there was a cuckoo going off, easy to get into Excelsior Tunnel, but I think some people, these urbexers, urban exploration, not that we're in an urban area, but they're the sort of people that do those sort of explorations. I think there might be something on YouTube. If I can find a link to that, I'll link it to the end of this video. It's not quite all of our story here at Kit Hill either, because we're going to go back now to have a look at railways. So we're looking back down at South Kit Hill mine shaft again, and just beyond that is the town of Callington. Probably Callington's most famous claim to fame these days is Ginster's Cornish pasties, which you probably find in your local supermarket shelves. I think it's owned by a company called Samworth Brothers. You often see their lorries going up and down the motorways and the dual carriageways of our country, delivering their stock of pasties, and indeed other foods as well, because I think they make other ready meals there for supermarkets. And as I say, over there you can just make out the River Tamar as it heads its way south to the city of Plymouth. So this is one of the many quarries that litter the sides of Kit Hill here. I love how people have just put up those smaller pieces of granite there on top of the blocks. So just below that quarry we have another one, and I do believe this one was served by a tramway, or rather a railway. But what I can say is this was served by a railway, and that railway was called the Tamar, Kit Hill and Callington Railway, which started life off in 1864, and it changed its name later to the East Cornwall Mineral Railway. The line opened in 1872, and it was 7.5 miles long. It ran from Calstock's river frontage. Now, if you cast your mind back to a video I did in January of 2024, when I was in Calstock doing a railway series video, there was a high arch bridge over a lane which leads to Kit Hill. Yes, that was the same railway going over the lane there, past Kelly Quay and Drake Walls and the Gunners Lake quarries along the northern flank of Hingston Down, which is just over there, to below Kit Hill, Kelly Bray, when there was an inclined tramway and it connected with it. Later on it amalgamated with the Plymouth, Devonport and South Western Junction Railway, crossing the Tamar above Calstock and onto the junction at Beeralston. It's lovely to hear a bit of cuckoo there. Today, Kithill is a nature haven. It's a green lung for surviving towns around here. Like I don't know why I said surviving, but towns, Cornish towns like Callington and the Devon town of Tavistock, which isn't that far away, and Liskeard also, which isn't that far away. And people come here to enjoy the views and sights and sounds of nature. Very hard now to imagine what it would have been like with all those mines in operation here and the quarrying as well. It probably would have been a very, very noisy place. Not today, just hear the birds. There's signs back there to be very careful, keep dogs on leads, because there are lots of ground nesting activity that takes place between March and early part of July, particularly things like skylarks and other birds as well. And you can see all the amazing heathers across there and the gorse, which gives wonderful life to all the birds life, wildlife in this area, which was an industrial place but now is a quiet and peaceful place for people to enjoy once more here in Cornwall. Hope you've enjoyed this Cornwall series video looking at the secrets and industrial legacy of the hill that is Kithill here in East Cornwall near the town of Callington. Thank you very much for watching West Country Wanderings today. Until next time on the channel, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Bye bye.